The wind howled through the hedgerows as I pulled out of my parents' driveway in Cornwall. The sky was pale gray, promising rain before noon, and I had a full tank of petrol, a packed suitcase, and no particular destination. Just the idea of freedom and a chance to breathe. I'd left behind the flat where silence echoed louder than arguments. 3 years of marriage boxed into memories I no longer wanted to carry. I told myself this road trip across the UK was just a break, a reset. But somewhere deep down, I knew I was searching for something I couldn't name. The plan was simple. Drive north, see the countryside, maybe make it to the Scottish Highlands if I felt brave. I had podcasts queued, a playlist titled Fresh Starts, and no one to answer to. It felt strange. Freeing, yes, but also empty. The roads narrowed as I passed through sleepy villages with stone cottages and flower baskets swaying in the wind. Sheep blocked the road more than once, and I had to laugh. It felt like the world was moving slower out here, and for once, I didn't mind. By the second day, I was somewhere in the Lake District, winding through mist-covered hills. It was beautiful in that quiet, melancholic way, like a place built for reflection. I pulled into a lay-by near Ullswater for a cup of tea from my thermos. That's when I saw her. She stood just off the verge, backpack slung over one shoulder, drenched from the drizzle. She wasn't holding out her thumb like a proper hitchhiker, just staring at the road with a sort of determined sadness. I don't usually stop for strangers, but something about her, maybe the way she looked straight at me without flinching, made me hesitate. I rolled down the window a little. "You all right?" She looked at me, eyes the color of storm clouds. "I could use a lift. Just up the road." Her voice was calm, almost too calm. There was a faint bruise on her cheek.
"Old, maybe."
I should have said no, but I didn't. "All right," I said. "Hop in." She slid into the passenger seat, her coat dripping onto the floor mat. For a while, we just drove. I didn't ask questions, and she didn't offer answers. The rain tapped gently on the windscreen. Finally, I glanced sideways. "What's your name?"
"Eva."
"Nice to meet you, Eva. I'm Callum." She gave a tight smile, but her eyes stayed on the road ahead. I had no idea then how much my journey was about to change. We drove in silence for over an hour, the hum of the engine filling the space between us. Outside, the countryside blurred into green and gray. Rolling hills, wet stone walls, and the occasional lone tree standing against the wind. Eva hadn't said much since getting in, and I wasn't sure if I should be worried or respectful. She kept her arms folded across her chest, her backpack tucked between her feet like it held something precious or dangerous. "You hungry?" I asked eventually, nodding toward a roadside cafe up ahead with a sign that read, "Home-cooked pies and tea." She looked at it, hesitated, then nodded.
"Yeah."
I could eat. We pulled into the gravel car park. Inside, the cafe was warm and smelled like roasted meat and apple crumble. We took a small table by the window. She ordered a steak pie and tea. I got the same, mostly to avoid looking difficult. For a while, we just ate. I watched her from the corner of my eye. She was young, maybe mid-20s, but her eyes carried weight. The kind of eyes that had seen too much, too soon. "Where are you heading?" I asked carefully. She shrugged. "Anywhere that's not here." I gave a short laugh. "You and me both." There was a pause before she spoke again. "My ex found out where I was staying. That's why I left." Her voice was low, matter of fact. Not dramatic, just tired. I nodded slowly. "You safe now?" "I will be, as long as I keep moving." She didn't say anything more, and I didn't press her. Something about the way she said it, the quiet steel in her voice, told me enough. She wasn't running blindly. She had purpose. A plan. Or, at least a direction. When we finished eating, she offered to pay for her half, but I waved it off. "I got it. Least I can do." She gave me that same half-smile again. "Thanks." Back on the road, the clouds had broken slightly, casting light over the wet fields. The air inside the car felt different now, not exactly comfortable, but not tense either. Like we'd both accepted this odd, temporary alliance. We passed through small towns and nameless hamlets. A red phone box turned into a book exchange. A sheepdog trotting down the lane like he owned it. Little snapshots of life I wouldn't have noticed if I were still alone. I didn't ask Eva where she wanted to be dropped off. Part of me didn't want her to go yet. Another part wondered if I'd regret letting her stay. But she didn't ask to leave either. As dusk crept in, I glanced at the clock. Should probably find somewhere to sleep. There's a B&B not far from here, she said. I saw a sign earlier. If you don't mind. Not at all. We found it at the edge of a village, ivy climbing up the old stone walls. The owner, a round woman with a soft northern accent, gave us 2 separate rooms without question. That mattered more than I realized. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, the sound of rain returning outside. Who was this girl really? And what had I just invited into my life? Morning came gray and sluggish. I met Eva in the breakfast room. She looked different in the daylight, less guarded, but still distant. Her hair was damp from a shower, and she wore the same clothes as the day before. No makeup, no pretense. Sleep all right? I asked. She nodded. Didn't dream. That's a good thing. We ate in near silence. The B&B owner served us toast, eggs, and a sausage that could have been used in self-defense. When we returned to the car, the clouds had thickened again. The air smelled of wet earth and old leaves. We were just pulling onto the A1 when I noticed it, a gray Vauxhall in the mirror. Same shape as one I'd seen in the last village. Could have been coincidence, but my gut stirred. Eva caught me glancing back. What is it? She asked, her voice sharpening. Probably nothing, I said, a bit too quickly. Just that car's been behind us a while. She turned slightly, checking the side mirror. Her expression changed. Not panic, but recognition. It's him, she said, barely above a whisper. My hands tensed on the wheel. You're sure? Positive. That's his car. Adrenaline rose, quick and bitter. I took the next exit sharply, tires protesting on the wet tarmac. We wove through narrow country roads, past hedgerows and cattle fields. I didn't look back. I just drove. After several turns, I pulled into a lay-by hidden behind a copse of trees. I cut the engine. Silence fell, broken only by the ticking of cooling metal and the distant bleat of sheep. Eva was breathing fast. I could see her fists clenched in her lap. He must have followed me to the cafe yesterday, she muttered. Or track my phone. She dug into her backpack and pulled out a battered mobile. Without hesitation, she opened the window and hurled it into the undergrowth. I blinked. Bit drastic, isn't it? It's a burner. I've got another. She reached for her bag again, calmer now. Almost professional. Are you military or something? I asked. She smirked faintly. Not exactly. But I've learned to take care of myself. She handed me a folded slip of paper. New route. Country roads. No motorways. He won't expect us to go slow. I took it and scanned the directions. She'd planned this. Every turn, every backup. This wasn't her first time disappearing. Back on the road, we followed her path through the backbones of England, quiet lanes where tractors outnumbered cars. The Vauxhall never reappeared. Still, my knuckles stayed white on the wheel. Eventually, we pulled into a petrol station near a farm shop. I filled the tank while she disappeared inside. When she returned, she handed me a sandwich and a bottle of water. You didn't have to, I said, touched more than I expected. She shrugged. You didn't have to let me in the car. We sat there for a moment, the engine idling, people walking by with carrier bags and muddy boots. A peaceful, ordinary place. The kind of place where people didn't get followed. And for the first time since she'd gotten into the car, Eva looked me in the eye and said, "Thanks, Tom, for not asking too many questions." I didn't reply, just nodded and started the engine again. Somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't just about giving a stranger a lift anymore. This was about something bigger. And I had no idea what it would cost me. The next town on our route was Keswick, tucked deep in the Lake District. It was late afternoon when we arrived, the hills dusted with mist, sheep dotting the pastures like white punctuation marks across the green. We found a small inn with low beams and creaky floors, the kind that smelled of old ale and forgotten stories. They had a room with 2 single beds and didn't ask for ID. Eva stood by the window as I set down our bags. Her eyes scanned the street, sharp and restless. "I think we lost him," I said, gently. She didn't answer immediately. Her fingers traced the glass. "You don't lose someone like him," she murmured. "You just buy yourself time." I didn't press. Something told me she'd talk when she was ready. That night, we grabbed dinner at a pub nearby. There was a fire in the hearth and a football match playing silently on the telly. The air was warm, but Eva kept her coat on. When we sat down, I noticed a small, crescent-shaped scar just beneath her right ear. It hadn't been visible before. Not unless you were close. I didn't mean to stare, but she caught me. "Knife," she said, not flinching. I blinked. I wasn't going to ask. She took a sip of cider, then leaned back. Her eyes, tired but watchful, met mine across the table. "Do you really want to know?" she asked. I hesitated. The truth was, I did. But I also sensed that once I knew, there'd be no going back. Still, I nodded. She drew a breath, long and slow. "His name is Dominic Hale," she began. "He's not just a man. He's a system. A predator in a nice suit. You'd never look at him twice unless he wanted you to. But once he had you, there was no out." She paused, the words thick. "I was with him for 3 years. At first, it was charming. Champagne and rooftop views. Then came the rules. The isolation. The bruises he made sure no one would see." I didn't speak. I let the weight of her words settle between us. "The scar." She touched it lightly. "The day I left, I had a plan. Money, a route, contacts. But he found me halfway through. Got a blade to my neck before I broke a lamp over his head and ran. I thought he wouldn't follow. Thought he'd move on." She looked away. "But he doesn't let go. Ever." I sat back, stunned by the clarity in her voice. It wasn't pity she wanted, it was space. A place to say things out loud, maybe for the first time. "He's got money," she added. "Friends in high places. If I go to the police, they turn on me. Always. That's why I needed to vanish. Not just escape, disappear." "And you think I can help with that?" I asked. She studied me for a long time. "I don't know. But you're the first person who didn't ask what I did to deserve it." We finished our meal in silence. Back at the inn, she locked the door, checked the window twice, then crawled into her bed fully dressed. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, listening to the occasional floorboard creak. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't a fighter or a fugitive. I was just a guy with a car. But now I was also a witness. And that meant I couldn't turn back. We left Keswick just after sunrise, the world still wrapped in fog. The roads twisted through hills like secrets etched into the earth. Eva didn't speak much, and I didn't press her. Something had shifted between us since last night, an unspoken understanding. I wasn't just giving her a lift anymore. I was helping her run. We had a new destination now, Whitby, on the northeast coast. She said it was quiet, remote, a place where the past didn't follow you as easily. The plan was to find someone there who could forge papers, arrange a boat to mainland Europe, maybe Sweden. She knew someone, apparently. Or used to. About an hour out of Keswick, somewhere near Penrith, a silver Audi began tailing us. It stayed 2 cars behind. Never overtook. Never fell too far back. Eva noticed it first. "Slow down a little," she said, her voice tight. I did. The Audi matched our speed perfectly. Her fingers curled around the door handle. "That's one of his." "You sure?" "I memorized every number plate he's used. That one's from his Newcastle lot. He rotates them to stay off-grid." I glanced at the rear view. The driver wore dark glasses. Alone.
Come.
"What do we do?" I asked. She looked at me, and for a moment I saw real fear. "We lose him." I floored it. The Audi reacted instantly, speeding up to keep pace. The road narrowed, hedgerows flashing by, the car roaring like a beast in heat. We weaved past a lorry, took a roundabout too fast, tires screaming as we slid round the bend. "Left," she barked. "Then take the second right, past the petrol station." I followed her directions blindly. She was calm, focused. This wasn't new to her. It was choreography. We zigzagged through a sleepy village, nearly clipping a bin, then hit a muddy farm track. "Are you mad?" I yelled. "They won't follow us off-road. It scratches the paint. He's obsessive about that." Sure enough, the Audi stopped at the edge of the track, engine idling like a beast denied prey. We bounced along the dirt road for 20 minutes until we reached a dead end, a disused barn. I parked behind it, killed the engine. Eva jumped out, checked our tracks, and listened. Nothing. "We've bought some time," she said, brushing mud from her coat. We waited in the barn until dusk, sitting on sacks of grain. The air smelled of hay and rust. It was cold, but she didn't seem to notice. "I wasn't meant to make it out," she said quietly. "Dominic doesn't lose control. Not ever. He'd rather burn the world than let someone go." "You did make it out," I said. She gave a bitter smile. "Only if I survive." As the sun set, casting amber light through the broken boards, I realized something strange. I wasn't scared anymore. Not for myself, at least. I was scared for her. And that was worse, because it meant I'd already picked a side. The next morning, we reached Whitby under a blanket of gray clouds and the cry of distant gulls. The sea stretched endlessly beyond the cliffs, a cold, restless presence that seemed to echo Eva's state of mind. The town itself was quiet, cobblestone lanes, old fishermen's houses, and a salty wind that bit through every layer of clothing. We booked into a small inn near the harbor under false names. Eva didn't hesitate, signing the register as Claire Morley. I became Ben Hughes. It felt strange to lie so easily, but I followed her lead. Our room was small. Twin beds, peeling wallpaper, and a window that overlooked the sea. As I unpacked my bag, she sat on the bed and pulled out a bundle I hadn't noticed before. Letters, wrapped in twine. She didn't try to hide them. In fact, she handed one to me. "Read it," she said. It was dated over a year ago, written in shaky cursive. Addressed to Eva Darling. The return name was Martha D. "Dear Eva, I hope this reaches you. I've left the house for good. He threatened me again, this time with a shotgun. I don't care if I have to live in a shelter. I won't be part of his world anymore. Neither should you. Please come. Please leave. I'll be waiting in Brighton until the end of the month. After that, I'll try Norway." There were 5 more like it. From the same woman. "Martha's my sister," Eva said. "She escaped before me."
He lied.
Told me she was dead. I stared at her. "You think she's in Norway?" She nodded. "If she made it." These were hidden in an old violin case in the basement. I only found them 2 months ago. That's when everything started to fall apart. I handed the letter back. "And now you want to find her? She's the only one who might understand. She knows what he's like, what he's capable of." A knock interrupted us. We froze. Then the innkeeper's voice. "Post for Claire Morley." Eva walked slowly to the door. On the floor lay a single envelope. No stamp, no address. Just one word on the front. "Run." She picked it up with shaking hands. "He's here," she whispered. "He's in Whitby." I checked the hallway. Empty. "Time to move," I said. We left the inn without looking back. No car. No luggage. Just the letters, the clothes on our backs, and the storm rolling in over the sea. We slipped through narrow alleys, past shops closing for the evening, down to the old harbor. The wind whipped at us, salt spray stinging our faces. "Who did you come to meet here?" I asked as we walked. "Her name's Annie. She used to work for Dominic. Bookkeeper, mostly. But she helped Martha get out. I think she kept a record. Names, places, the whole operation. Blackmail material. You think she'll still help you?" "She owes me." We reached a weathered cafe on the edge of the quay. Lights off. Shutters drawn. But under the door, a strip of paper was wedged. Eva pulled it free. 3 words, scrawled in red ink. He found me. A siren blared somewhere in the distance. We ran. Whippy at night was a different creature altogether. The lantern-lit lanes twisted like a maze, every shadow stretching too long, every step echoing louder than it should. Eva and I ducked into a narrow snicket between a row of old cottages. Our breath misted in the cold air, heartbeats pounding in rhythm with our boots on the cobbles. He's not far, Eva whispered. I know, I replied. But how does he keep finding us? She shook her head. I don't know. Unless... We both paused. The letters. She pulled them from her coat, rifling through them, then stopped. Tucked between two of them was something small and metallic. A tracker. Her face drained of color. He must have slipped it in during the court hearing. Or before. I took the device and crushed it under my boot, metal cracking against stone. We can't trust anything anymore, I said. Not even paper. We moved again, avoiding the main roads, sticking close to the seawall. The tide was rising fast. Gulls screamed overhead, unsettled by something. The cafe where Annie was supposed to meet us loomed behind now, silent, abandoned. Where would she go if she fled? I asked. Eva bit her lip. There's an old lifeboat station, she once mentioned. Derelict now. No one goes there. Then, that's our next stop. It took us 20 minutes to reach it. The structure was rusted, with a door half hanging from its hinges and salt-eaten walls. But inside, the scent of damp wood and oil was strong. And on the floor, amidst the dust, lay a scarf, faded red silk. Annie's, Eva whispered, picking it up. Footsteps creaked above. We looked up at the catwalk. A silhouette stood there.
Tall. Still.
Run, Eva said, but I didn't move. The figure stepped into the light. A woman, thin and pale, eyes wide with fear. Annie, Eva breathed. Annie rushed down, embracing Eva without a word. She looked older, more broken, but alive. You shouldn't have come, she said. He's watching everything. He has people in the police. In town. That tracker you found? He's not working alone. Eva pulled back. Do you still have the files? Annie nodded. Most of them. Hidden. He's killed for less than what I know. What does he want now? I asked. Annie's gaze darkened.
You.
Both of you. Silenced. But more than that, he wants Eva back. Not out of love, but control. It's always been control. Suddenly, a loud clang echoed outside, the lifeboat station's main gate, slamming shut. Annie paled. He's here. There was no time to think. Just move. We climbed out the back window, dropping onto the rocky shore below. The tide had crept in. The only path forward was along the narrow seawall. Eva stumbled. I caught her. We have to split up, Annie gasped. He can't follow all of us. No, Eva said firmly. We stay together. But the decision was made for us. A figure appeared at the end of the seawall.
Dominic.
Even from a distance, I recognized the smug posture, the stillness of someone who believed they had already won. Come back, Eva. His voice rang out, casual, cruel. It's late. You're tired. Let's go home. She trembled, frozen. I won't say it again, he added. Then Annie stepped forward. You want your records? She shouted. They're already with the press. Dominic paused. His expression shifted for the first time, uncertainty.
It was a bluff.
A gamble. But it worked. He lunged forward, but we'd already turned and run, salt spray rising in sheets around us as the waves crashed harder, faster. We ran until the sound of Dominic's shouting faded into the roar of the wind. At the far end of the beach, a fisherman's shack offered shelter. Annie collapsed inside, breathless. We bought ourselves time, but not much. Eva looked at me, her face lined with resolve. It's not over, she said. No, I agreed. Not yet. The shack groaned under the weight of the wind and the crashing tide. Inside, the dim glow of a lantern cast long shadows on the weathered walls. Annie sat curled in a corner, arms wrapped tightly around herself. Eva stood by the doorway, staring out at the gray dawn creeping over the sea. I stoked the old iron stove in the corner, feeding it driftwood and scraps. A faint warmth began to push back the coastal chill. "We can't stay here," I said. "He'll guess this was our direction." Annie nodded. "There's a train out of Whitby tonight. Quiet, rarely used. It runs once a day to Scarborough." "That's still too close," Eva murmured. "But from there," Annie continued, "you can get anywhere. London, Manchester, disappear." I caught her wording. "You're not coming." Annie shook her head. "If he thinks I'm still here, he won't chase you. I've led him in circles for years. I can do it a bit longer." Eva stepped forward. "You can't keep running, Annie. Not forever." "No," she replied softly, "but long enough to matter." We sat in silence, interrupted only by the wind rattling the wooden boards and the occasional distant caw of gulls. I thought about everything we'd learned, about Dominic's influence, the corruption he had seeded in quiet corners of the system. If the files Annie had were real, if we could get them to the right hands, it wouldn't just be about escaping. It would be about exposing him. "Where are the documents?" I asked. Annie reached into a satchel and pulled out a battered notebook, thick with inserts and creased pages. Names, dates, photos. And one entry that caught my eye. "What's this?" I asked, pointing. "That," Annie said, "is proof he's not just a manipulator. He's dangerous. A cover-up in Manchester. A girl vanished. Same pattern. Same charm. Same threats." Eva took the notebook in trembling hands. "We give this to the press. No more hiding." "Are you sure?" I asked. She met my eyes. "I was scared before."
Not now.
"I want this over." We agreed to move at dusk. The old train station wasn't far, but every street between here and there could hold danger. So we planned each step, each alley, each shadow. As the sun dipped behind the cliffs, we set off. The town was quiet.
Too quiet.
The sort of silence that comes before a storm. We kept close, slipping through the maze of streets, avoiding the main roads. At one point, a police car crept past us, its lights off, engine idling. We ducked behind bins, holding our breath until it rolled on. "He's using them," Annie whispered. "I told you." At the station, the platform was empty, save for an old man smoking a pipe. He didn't look up as we approached. "The train's late," he muttered. "Signal fault." Of course it was. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Each second stretched. When the train finally arrived, the relief almost broke me. We climbed aboard and found a carriage near the back. Eva clutched the notebook tightly, eyes scanning every face. No Dominic. No one familiar. But just as the doors hissed shut, a hand reached between them, forcing them open again. A man stepped on board. Not Dominic, but close. One of his men. The one from the courtroom. The one who stood by him like a shadow. Annie saw him too. Her eyes widened. "We got company," I said, pulling Eva to the back of the carriage. We darted through the narrow corridors between cars, ducking into the last carriage, a freight section, dim and unheated. No passengers here. Just crates and rattling chains. The train pulled out of Whitby, rocking with emotion. We were moving, but so was he. Footsteps echoed behind us. Eva turned to Annie. "Go forward. Find the conductor. Tell him someone's trying to harm a passenger." Annie hesitated. "What about you?" "I'm not hiding anymore." Annie vanished into the train. I turned to Eva. "You're sure?" She nodded. "I'm done being hunted." The door creaked open behind us. The man stepped inside. But this time, we were ready. The man's silhouette filled the doorway, blocking what little light filtered through the dirty carriage windows. His coat was soaked, his eyes calm but scanning, assessing. Eva and I backed away slowly. The rattling of the train wheels beneath us set a tense rhythm, like a drumbeat rising toward confrontation. "I don't want trouble," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "But you found it anyway," he replied. His tone was chillingly polite. "Miss Lonsdale, you were meant to disappear quietly." Eva stepped forward. Tell Dominic he won't silence me. Not this time. He raised an eyebrow. This isn't about silence. It's about loose ends. He reached inside his coat, and I instinctively moved in front of Eva. Suddenly, the train jolted hard, brakes screaming, metal shrieking. The man staggered, grabbing a rail to steady himself. It gave us the moment we needed. Eva kicked one of the crates toward him. It clattered across the floor, forcing him to shift back. I lunged forward, ramming him shoulder first. He hit the sidewall with a grunt. "Run!" I shouted. We burst through the door into the next carriage, weaving between confused passengers. Shouts erupted behind us. He was following again. But the train staff had noticed now, alerted by Annie. A conductor blocked his path, demanding a ticket. The man pushed past, but it slowed him just enough. The next stop, Scarborough, was still 10 minutes away. We didn't have 10 minutes. Eva turned sharply into the lavatory, dragging me in behind her. We slammed the door shut and locked it. Breathless, she pressed her back against the cold wall. "We can't outrun him forever." "No," I said, "but we can end this." I pulled out my phone. Earlier, in the shack, we'd taken photos of Annie's notebook, every page, every file, every name. I opened the email app. "We send this now. To every contact I have. Journalists, solicitors, MPs." Eva hesitated, then nodded. "Do it." I hit send. A moment later, there was a bang on the door. "You've got nowhere to go," came the man's voice. Eva's hand found mine. "We already left," she said, loud enough for him to hear. "You just don't know it yet." The train pulled into Scarborough. The station was busy, full of evening travelers. We slipped out of the toilet as the crowd surged. He was still on the train, checking carriages, searching faces. But by the time he realized we were off, we had already disappeared into the station. Annie was waiting by a side entrance. "Did you do it?" she asked. Eva nodded. "It's gone out to everyone." Annie's face was pale. "Then it's not over." "Not yet. But now it's public." We made our way to a safe house Annie had prepared, a small flat above a florist's, tucked in a quiet street. The kind of place that looked too ordinary to matter. Eva didn't speak much that night. She stared out the window, watching the rain gather on the glass. The quiet was thick with everything left unsaid. Then the news alerts began. First a trickle, then a flood. Headlines. Online articles. Mentions of Dominic Hartley, high-ranking officials, cover-ups, missing girls, corruption within the judicial system. Eva's name wasn't in any of them. Just the facts. Just the truth. Annie smiled for the first time in days. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Eva said. "We did." But even as relief began to settle, I knew the fight wasn't over. Exposing him was just the beginning. Because men like Dominic don't vanish quietly. The following morning dawned gray and heavy with mist. The city outside the window felt muted, as if holding its breath. Eva sat at the small kitchen table, a steaming cup of tea warming her hands. Messages and calls were coming through nonstop. People offering support, journalists requesting interviews, friends checking in. But Eva stayed quiet, collecting her thoughts. I joined her, placing my own cup beside hers. "Do you think it's safe now?" I asked. She looked up, her eyes steady. "Safe?
No.
But it's different. We've given others a voice. That's worth the risk." The day passed with a slow unfolding of plans. Police inquiries had begun, investigations reopened. Dominic Hartley was nowhere to be found. Rumors of him fleeing the country swirled. Eva's phone buzzed again. This time, a message from a woman named Rachel, a survivor who had seen Eva's story and wanted to talk. It was a start. Later, standing on the rooftop of the safe house, Eva breathed in the cool air. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. I nodded. "You changed everything." She smiled, a quiet, tired smile, but genuine. "And I'm not alone." As the sun broke through the clouds, the city seemed to exhale, ready to face whatever came next. Because sometimes, the darkest journeys lead to the brightest dawns.